In this episode, we got a chance to sit down and talk cars and the 24 hours of Spa with Jake Simpson. Well, welcome to the podcast, Jake. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Jake Simpson.
Thanks, gents. Appreciate y'all guys having me.
Happy to have
I
you.
think by way of background, I should probably introduce myself to your listening audience here. So fast friends, Michael and I go back to, it's been 10 plus years.
Yeah, I
It's
think
been a
high
long
school,
time,
right?
right?
Yeah.
High school. Yeah.
I remember talking GTIs with you back in the day.
Yeah, gee, Volkswagens, the good old Volkswagens, man. I loved that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really old friends with Michael here locally in Sarasota. Bit of an interesting background to start it off in the professional motorsports industry, working for teams, started sweeping floors, ended up working up to doing data engineering, setup and analysis, and other kind of aspects of, all things motorsports, particularly focusing on endurance racing. So GT3, GT4 spec, actually touring cars back when they were really big, running touring cars in Pirelli World Challenge. And did that for a couple of years. And today I'm a cybersecurity consultant here locally in Sarasota as well. And yeah, so happy to be here, gents. So just jump in, whatever you want to know. Let's go.
Sweet. So let's start going back to your, I guess, telemetry days. What races were you working at? I mean, any teams you're free to mention, or your cars? Who were you working with?
Yeah, so I really just did freelance work. So I would contract with teams to effectively be fly-in mechanic or fly-in help as a, oh, sorry, I got a call coming in. Let me into that there. Okay. So yeah, I really would just do fly-in work. And that was, it was interesting because I was never really contracted to work specifically with one team. So that meant I got to bounce around and see just a bunch of different cars, bunch of different tracks, and really run the gambit, if you will. I think the two primary series that I worked were the American Le Mans series back when that was a thing.
Yes.
And the Grand Am. So then, of course, they merged into what we know as IMSA today. And then as well, actually, shoot, I completely forgot, Pirelli World Challenge. You remember Pirelli World Challenge?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was actually kind of the primary series that I ran. And it was really interesting just having all of those cars, different types of cars, because back then we were running touring cars, GTS class, which was effectively equivalent to the GT4 class today. And then, of course, your GT3 machinery. And another interesting part about World Challenge back in the day is they used to do standing starts. So you have all these mixed class of cars doing standing starts, and it was insane. It was the Wild West out there, man. It was a spectacle to behold if you were a fan. But from the engineering and mechanic side of things, it was close your eyes and hope and pray that you make it you make it past turn one, because they were just wild doing those standing starts. So as far as
I can only imagine.
Yeah, as far as tracks, the big ones in the US, so Laguna Seca, Sonoma, Road America, Sebring, of course, being our home track. We actually really cool did Belle Isle in Detroit.
Dang. Yeah.
The first year it came back, we did Belle Isle up there, and it rained like crazy. It was like just flood central. It was insane. And I made it up to Canada as well. They call it Mosport. It's Canadian Tire Motorsports Park now, I think, but back when I was up there, it was Mosport, right?
Yeah.
And that was fun too. So yeah, really all over the place. Only recently started traveling as a fan to the international destinations. So as a fan, traveled to the Nürburgring in 2019. I did, two days there, rented a car, through Apex, actually. Apex, if
Okay.
you're ever going to the Nürburgring, look up Apex, because I found them through Misha. Oh, I'm going to butcher the dude's last name. Misha Sheridan.
Oh,
Sheridan, I think is his last name. He's he's a YouTube personality, does like daily vlogs from the ring and has onboards and everything. So I found this company Apex through him and his YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go give them a ton of my money. And so I rented a car and did 2 days on track at the Nürburgring, which was insane. And I'll pause there because I also want to talk about Spa, and Spa obviously is kind of what we're here to talk about today, is the experience of, what's it like as a fan at the racetrack in Spa. But yes, did Spa in 2019 as well. Did the 24 hours event there, and then as recently as this past year's 24-hour was there as a fan as well. And I'll come back to that point that I paused on with the Nürburgring. You get it at some tracks here. Laguna Seca was really one of those tracks where you see it on TV, you play it on the Sims and the video games, but you don't really get a true appreciation for the elevation changes and just how drastic they are until, like at Laguna Seca, for instance, you're walking the corkscrew, doing a track walk, and the curbs are literally stairs for you to climb up and down this hill. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I thought I kind of knew. I was like, okay, I got a taste of that, right? I remember the first time ever going to the Nürburgring and kind of driving up next to it to get into the village of Nürburg. You can see the track. It runs right next to the public roads as well. And just looking at the elevation changes and what is not a technical part of the track. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And I had that exact same feeling standing at the bottom of Eau Rouge for the first time. And that is, I don't think you have to do it, right? You have to go to that track. You have to see just how crazy the elevation changes are. And that corner in particular, Eau Rouge into Radillon at Spa, is mental. Just how, and I'm sure you guys can pull up the facts and figures of what the elevation changes from the bottom to the top. But even still, then you don't really appreciate it until you're standing there looking up and these cars are going flat out through it. It's bonkers, absolutely insane. So
yeah,
I know that was a pretty lengthy intro, so I'll let you guys kind of chime in if you have anything.
It's funny. You just mentioned looking up the elevation change. I just quickly did. It is 134 feet is what it says.
Yeah, but it's compressed into like a
Jesus.
very small. Actually, I think what would be a better figure to look up is the grade percentage. What is the gradient of
17%?
Oof.
That is
steep. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't imagine standing. I mean, I couldn't imagine driving Eau Rouge flat out. That just seems. I don't have the balls for that.
No.
I don't.
No.
I just because it takes a certain level of balls to do that.
Right. That's something like a 13-story building that you're climbing up to. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's not like, you're approaching it just on level ground as well. Coming from La Source, all the way from La Source down to the bottom of Eau Rouge is another steep hill. Mm-hmm. So you've got gravity working in your advantage. You're completely flat out coming out of that corner. Mm-hmm. And you're just supposed to pitch it in and hope and pray. I mean, kudos to the guys that can do it flat out, because to your point, Mike, the balls it takes to do that, unreal.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And now I'm thinking about that. I remember when Porsche did their almost just like their celebrity celebration run when they took the 919, their old LMP1 car, and just said, screw all BOP, let's just go set blitzing lap records everywhere. And I remember watching the highlights of that Porsche LMP going up and down or down Eau Rouge, up Radillon. It just, oh my God. The numbers just, it makes my head just explode. I couldn't imagine that. It's insane.
That's super cool. Now, you were at Spa for the 24, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So you got to see the GT only race, which was all GT3 cars.
Yep.
And you've been in the multi-class world.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
well, let me get your take on if you enjoyed watching that more, or if you enjoy watching multi-class racing more, because that's kind of the big debate in my head for that
Right.
race.
No, that's a really, really good point. To the untrained eye, multi-class racing is going to be the winner without a doubt, right? Because you just have variety. You've got issues and challenges created by and I think the best example of multi-car or multi-class that we've got now is going to be like WEC, like Le Mans, or European Le Mans series as well. That's still going.
Yep.
I think it's still going.
IMSA.
IMSA as well. Sorry, my head was stuck in European land. But yeah, I think from a TV spectator perspective, multi-class racing is definitely cool. I mean, it's appealing. My personal opinion, though, and it requires a little bit more in-depth, intimate knowledge of what endurance racing is, what it really means, what are the different constraints that are being placed on the system effectively of this endurance race. And so when you realize with a single class, especially with as good of a job as SRO does with BOP, just how close the racing is, you gain a whole new appreciation for the chess match that is a 24-hour endurance race with all the cars being that close together. I think this year's Super Pole for Spa, the top 20 were separated by a second, which is ridiculous. And hats off to the scrutineering directors of SRO, because for them to be able to do that with the Audis, the Lambos, the Porsches, the Mercedes. Oh wait, we have no Aston Martins in the mix, and there was a lone Bentley, my absolute favorite car, favorite car of all time, is that Bentley. But for them to be able to do that it's insane. So I appreciate the single class more just personally, because I understand what goes into it, and just watching the dramas that unfold over a 24-hour race, whether it be just weather or, as we found out this year, the gravel traps, man, they caused a bunch of problems this year. But then also strategy decisions, right? What's the strategy going to look like? How's that going to unfold? How's that going to change? So that to me is my personal favorite thing.
I absolutely love that answer. That's coming from somebody who's been in the weeds in the series and kind of around the BOP area. But one thing I find that I have a question that is like, are the series technical guys, or are the guys that are at the top of SRO and the top of IMSA, and you might not know this, but are they putting their hats on from the perspective of we want to have really good racing? Or are they putting their hats on from this perspective of we want to entertain the fans as much as possible? Because there's certainly a trade-off there. And at the end of the day, motorsports is an entertainment industry. And it's hard for them to balance how competitive do we make it? Can we keep all the racers happy? Can we keep the fans happy? It's that balancing act.
Right. No, that's a really good question. And so my perspective, the technical directors, the scrutineering directors, they're there to make sure that it is as close of a race as possible. At the end of the day, those particular guys, and this is just my opinion, so if you disagree with this, don't come hunt me down. They really don't care about the fans.
Okay.
Right? They're there to make sure that this is a very, very close race. And because you also have to think about it from the aspect of what is the motorsports industry? What drives the motorsports kind of gears? It's a ton of money, right, at the end of the day. And if somebody's going to make an investment, like I don't even know what the going rates are anymore, but a full season seat in a GT3 car back when I was running 10 years ago was $2-3 million. It's probably gone way up. So you think about it from that perspective of, well, I'm going to make this investment, right? I'm a gentleman driver. I'm going to make this investment, or I'm a pro driver. I've worked my entire life for this. I've worked my ass off for this, and I've got sponsors behind me, right? you start putting money like that into something like racing, like you have to have, really, I don't mean to call them fiduciaries, but that's kind of what they are. The technical directors, or they're like really the fiduciaries of making sure that there is a level playing field between everything. And now, yeah, to your point, there is a trade-off, right? You get cars that close, it's kind of like, but I think to the discerning fan, close racing is also a good thing for the marketing of the sport, right? Because you don't just have teams running away with it. And it was interesting to see recently, SRO Europe, they've got it figured out, man. They've got it dialed in. They've got the right balance of marketing and technical kind of inputs. So they've got this really great ratio here. Here in the US, whether it's the technical regulations or the parity in the drivers, maybe the driver stock here isn't as good. You find that there is teams here in the US, especially within SRO, that will just run the gambit. I think K-Pax has been that team for probably the last 3 or 4 years here in the US, that just, you look at what they're doing and you're like, yeah, okay, we're not competing with you. So that it kind of hurts it a little bit, which then makes the marketing departments have to spend a lot more time and energy and effort on getting people to the track, making it an enticing event for them to come to. So it'd be interesting to see if SRO can bring that up to parity here in the US as it is in Europe. But I think IMSA is another one that they've got the right balance. And IMSA, I think, has they've got a lot of really smart business people, being that it's NASCAR effectively, right? There's a lot of bleed over, a lot of shared mentalities. So they're able to drive that interest, I think, organically through getting manufacturers involved. And that deal they swung with, I think it's the ACO, to do the joint Chiron hypercar regs to get all these other manufacturers interested. Like, I don't think we've had this many like manufacturer teams building a purpose-built car for a series in a long time. Like, I'm excited for that. That's going to be insane.
Super stoked for that. Oh, so that means you're going to be at the Rolex this coming year then, right?
Yeah, I'm going to end up probably getting tickets to it and going.
You opened the door to that one. So
yes, I did.
You were at Spa. What was your favorite moment from Spa this past year here?
Well, somehow, I mean, it's just chance. You know how motorsport is, especially if you're a fan and you're at a track and something happens. It's chance that you're there seeing it right in front of you. And so I had, for better or for worse, made the decision to climb the hill that is from Eau Rouge to Raidillon, and where they built that brand new grandstand, which, by the way, is sick, right? It's so nice. But the walk up there, no bueno. I mean, it's ridiculous. You really get a taste of how steep it is when you do that walk. So there's like 3 hours left in the race. And I got up there and we were just kind of hanging out. I brought my fiance with me, and ironically enough, she's a huge endurance racing fan and goes with me to all these things. So I got to tip the old cap to her there for coming along with me. But we made it up to the new grandstand, and we're just kind of sitting there. The views from up there are amazing, but we're like 3 hours left in the race, and Nicky Team, the Danish driver for Aston Martin, he somehow ends up, and I think it was, I want to say Maro Angle in a Mercedes. They end up going too wide from La Source, and this is just the credit to the BOP. They're even coming out of La Source, coming down, and they decide that they're going to go door to door through the bottom of Eau Rouge.
That's nuts.
They don't lift. Like I'm expecting one of them to lift. Now, neither of them lift. They crest. And I don't know if they touched or what happened, but the back end kicked out on the Aston and just sent Nicky Team spinning right at the top of Raidillon, right into like almost into the tire barrier. Like, I think he stopped in like pit lane, like where the pit exit is. And just watching him crest the hill completely sideways spinning. And I'm sitting there just like, oh, I know who that driver is, and I know he's in the car yelling, Code Brown, Code Brown, this little microphone or whatever megaphone. And just, yeah, I was like, oof, that's insane. And luckily he saved it. Like, we didn't have another repeat of some of the other instances or incidents we've had at that corner where somebody gets stuck, on track, and it's blind. You're not going to see anything coming over that crest, and they get, punted. That didn't happen, thankfully. So I think that was probably my favorite moment of the entire 24 hours, was just sitting there kind of tired, just hanging out, not really a care in the world, but not really thinking about much anyways. And then that happening right in front of you, it's like, take the excitement level from like 0 to like 100 real quick.
It's such a cool moment. And you're right. It's just chance. You just happen
Yeah.
to be there and you happen to see them cresting the hill, and then team goes sideways.
Yeah.
That's just
insane.
That's awesome. Did you guys camp at the track, or did you stay
No.
off track?
Yeah. So we kind of a plan or a routine now, I guess, since we've done it more than once. I usually find an Airbnb just kind of in the area. So the first year we went, we stayed in Stavelot. And that's the thing about the track in Belgium, specifically Spa, is there's like the track, and then there's like all these little villages dotted all around it. And if you like listen to the track names, or excuse me, the names of the corners, you'll pick up like Stavelot is one of the corner names. Well, it's close by town. Malmedy, close by town, right? La Source. Actually, I think that one is not. But there's all sorts of different like nods to the surrounding area. So we stayed in Malmedy, and we just rented an Airbnb, and I usually just rent a car when I'm over there too, and just drive to the track, and it works out great. So you kind of show up, go to the Super Bowl Friday night, cook your dinner, eat your dinner, whatever you want to do, and then you go to the track Saturday morning, and you're there until whenever you want. The first year we went, it rained a ton, and there was a massive red flag, so we ended up getting like 5 hours of sleep. This year there was another red flag, so that was when we threw the hat in, and was like, I think it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and came back at like 7. So it's nice being able to have that accommodation super close to the track. I think our Airbnb from where we parked was a 5-minute drive. It was like, yeah, it's everything there's super close. So, you're not really driving a long ways. It's all right there.
It's not like us going to Sebring, right?
Yeah.
It's quite different.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally is.
So in your Airbnb, did they serve Belgian waffles, or were they waffles, or were they American waffles, or were they what kind of waffles? You're in Belgium. You must have waffles, right?
Yeah. So the waffles, this is actually, I know this question was coming because it came up on your Spa 24 recap of the waffles. So the waffle situation in Belgium is really interesting. There's, from what I found in my not so extensive research, is that there's really 2 types, and they're going to depend on where you are in Belgium. So the south of Belgium is this region called Wallonia, completely French speaking, and they have a totally different attitude on life than, say, like the northern region, which is called Flanders, and that's entirely Dutch speaking. It's technically Flemish, but it's Flemish is effectively a dialect of Dutch. So you get this just massive difference between cultures, ideologies, languages, the way they go about doing things. And that trickles down into the waffles. So where Spa is in Wallonia. It's in the French-speaking part of the country. The waffles there are these really thin, covered in kind of powdered sugary waffles, almost like a pizzelle. If you ever had one of those, but they're not like crunchy. They're still like as you would imagine. I think the best example would be a Waffle House waffle. Real thin,
Yeah.
And so the waffles in the south are kind of like that. I had like 3 or 4 of them as we were in Wallonia. the Belgian waffle, the one we think of when we conjure up the image of
Yep.
a waffle, that's found more in the north. I found at least. So it's more of
Okay.
the Dutch style waffle, real thick,
Mhm.
kind of rounded edges, and those are my favorite, to be honest with you. They were so good. But yeah, it depends on what part of the country you're in and what you know where you what kind of waffle you're going to get. Now you did also mention on the Spa 24 Stroop waffles.
Yes.
So Stroop waffles are completely different. They're not actually waffles at all. I mean, they are, but they're not. They are like a pizzelle, like they're a hard, crunchy cookie with this caramelly sauce in the middle, and it's like a little sandwich, and you eat it. And they give it to you on the airplane. They're like, here, have a snack. So instead of Delta handing you a Biscoff cookie, they're handing you Stroop waffles with your coffee if you're on KLM. It's like, okay, it's like a savory little treat. It's gonna be a sweet little treat. And those are really good too. But I think by far the Northern waffles, hands down, they take precedent. They're so good. We had too many to count, I think, while we were touring around the northern part of Belgium.
What do they call them? Just waffles?
Waffles.
Okay. They don't call them
They call
American
them
waffles or
no. They call
Belgian
them
waffles?
waffles. In the north, and then the French, they have a different name for them in French.
Okay.
I mean, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
See, that's where my brain goes. What do they call the waffles? Is it Belgian waffles? No, because they're in Belgium. Of course not. Right?
Yep, just waffles.
So, I mean, that's awesome. Would you say Spa has been one of your favorite races to go to so far as a fan?
Yeah, 100%. They do it right there, man. I mean, it's a party from the moment you walk in the track at 10 a.m. when the gates open to really the flag, the checkered flag falling the next day. And credit to SRO as well. Like, they put on a hell of an event. They've got DJs and concerts and stuff all going on while the race is going on. I am a bit of a princess. Actually, I don't say a princess. I figured out that the best way to do a race is to pony up for the VIP or hospitality, right? So if you know somebody or you got a connection, you can get usually manufacturer hospitality, which is like the cream of the crop. And actually, I got a hookup for WRT hospitality next year, so I'm probably going to be doing that.
There you go.
But the second tier is like the VIP level,
Mhm.
which is a bit spendy. It's 600 euros a person, but it's worth it because you get so Saturday you get effectively open bar from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. You get breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks throughout the day, and same as Sunday. And they like sequester you off in this little area where there's like chairs and stuff, and you can get out of the sun and go get absolutely waffled if you want, which may or may not have happened. I mean, come on, you give me an open bar with that much good Belgian beer, like it's on, man. It's happening.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the way to do it, in my opinion. You can certainly have the same experience, but it's so much nicer when you can do a track walk. I mean, doing a track walk, that's 3 miles of walking with elevation changes.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna want to like have a place to sit, like maybe have a snack or eat some food or have a drink. So now whenever I go to races, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna pony up for the VIP ticket experience because it just makes it so much more of a pleasurable experience, just being at the track. And Sebring's a really great example of that. It's March, right? You don't really think March in Florida is hot, but somehow it always ends up being just stupid hot out there.
Yep.
And it's always busy, and it's like a lot of people in a small area. Just being able to like go into a little shack that has air conditioning and maybe some food and drinks, man, makes all the difference in terms of enjoyment and experience.
We can attest to that.
Yes, we can.
We got the hookup through WeatherTech a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
we got the full WeatherTech hospitality.
Ooh, I'm sure that was just mint.
It was. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep.
Trackside on the entrance of turn 17.
Oh,
I mean,
On the inside.
on the entrance
Yep.
of 17,
Wow.
like apex of 17,
Yeah.
right just before the bridge.
Oh, I'm sure that was just unreal.
Sublime. It open bar.
Wow.
So that experience you're talking about, we were
Yep.
walking around all day. It's a little, feet are a little tired, a little sore. There's Wi-Fi, there's some AC, there's endless amounts of beer if you want it. Let's have it. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
the next time we go, we may pony up as well.
Oh, it's worth it. And but we're saying this right now, and some like diehard race fan that's been going to the track for like 30 years is like, oh, these damn kids, they don't know how to do it. I could totally see somebody just like having a field day saying, these privileged little shits. I don't know if I can say that on your show. Sorry.
No, you can say whatever you want.
But
It's the internet. You can say anything.
well, in that case, let me tell you some stories then.
All right. So a couple more questions just to wrap up, because I don't want to take your whole night from you. But so we ask everyone, what do you drive? So what do you drive right now, Jake? What's your driver?
I have a 2021 Porsche Macan GTS.
All right. So
Ooh.
that is, in my opinion, the SUV to buy. Do
Agreed.
you like it?
Yeah, I absolutely love the thing. It's actually really interesting. So I leased it, and I'm already trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because that's just what I do. Try to figure out what I'm going to do for my next lease, because I typically don't buy cars. I usually just lease them, only because I'm usually tired of them after like 2 or 3 years. But I've had this car now for exactly a year. I just had like my 1-year Porsche anniversary last week. And I'm struggling with what I want to do, because it's such a fantastic car. I've always wanted to own something from the Porsche brand. I've raced with them in different series. I know the engineering behind it. So I've always really had an affinity for that brand in particular. And, I've always wanted one. And so for this is the first opportunity to get one of my own, and I am loving every second of it, so much so that I might not want to get rid of it when the lease is up. I might buy it out. We'll see.
Oh.
So.
Interesting. That's good to hear. The Macan GTS to me seems like the perfect SUV that you can daily, that you can have fun with, that it just kind of is all things to all man. Is kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, and that's why I picked it up. I play hockey, so I have to throw my hockey stuff in the back, and I needed a car that could do that. But I also wanted to have something sporty and fun with a bit of personality that wasn't, your usual Toyota Camry that's absolutely soulless driving down the road. And so what I originally did is I had ordered an S5. I ordered an Audi S5, spec'd it out how I wanted it. This was June of last year. And so I was like, I'm ordering this Audi. It's going to be fantastic. It'll be here in October. Great. So I'm on the local Porsche dealer site one night. This is like August of last year. And I see they've got an incoming 2021 Macan GTS. And so I'm like, I've always wanted it. I've loved the Macans, right? Because they've always been like that perfect car. And so I'm like, I'll go down and see if it's still available, right? And a car like that, there's no way anybody is not going to have an allocation on it already, or it's probably already spoken for. And so I went down to the Porsche dealer that weekend and was like, hey, so on your site, it says you've got an incoming Macan GTS. Is it accounted for? And the guy was like, nope, it's available. It's like, it can be yours if you want. I just need a deposit from you. And I'm like, take my money. Handed him the card and was like, just do what you need to do. I want that damn car. So I ended up coming in like 2 weeks later and got the car with 3 miles on it. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't get more brand new than that. And it was like surreal, just how well it worked out, the chance of it happening. Because one, it's a GTS. You know, they don't make a lot of those. Dealers usually don't get a lot of spec for it or a lot of allocations for it. You know, it's something you have to order usually. So for me to have found it and picked it up and gotten it, it was just this like the stars aligning with Jupiter and Mercury at the exact same time. It was like, what are the odds? So yeah, I picked it up and then had to make the difficult call to the Audi store saying, "Hey, I'm not taking this allocation that's going to be here, this order." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, no worries." I'm like, "Wait,
Oh,
what? What do you mean no worries?" And the guy's like, "This thing, this spec'd out, I'll have no problem selling it. I'll have it sold tomorrow." I'm like, "All right, good luck. Good luck with sale." You know,
Guess that all
and
worked out perfectly.
didn't hear anything more from me. Yeah, it was all good. You know, no issues, no worries. Got my deposit back on it too. I was like, "Oh, that's crazy."
Nice.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the Porsche, if you're lucky enough to be able to own one, it's an I'm probably going to be hooked on the brand forever, you know, and I say that with confidence because I know they're probably going to be the last bastions of hope to resist electrification.
Ah,
They've got the Taycan, right? I've driven one. They're sick, right? They're a ton of fun, but I don't know. For me, driving um, is an emotional experience. Needs some sound, needs some vibrations, needs some, you know, just and the Taycan, albeit really cool, really fast, just didn't do that for me. So when you look at Porsche's future strategy, kind of where they're going, you know, they're really heavily investing in alternative fuels, trying to make sure that they can maintain internal combustion in some form for the generations to come, which I think is a really smart move because from a business strategy perspective, Porsche is one of those brands that really understands their market and who buys Porsches and why they buy Porsches. And they realize that if they take away the soul of the brand, what makes a Porsche, you know, from the 1960s to today, it's been the flat six.
Yep.
You see it, you hear it, you like, that's a Porsche. I know what that is, and I want one. And you know, they're smart enough to realize you take that away, you kill the brand. You become everybody else. You become all the other big brands. And I got to give them credit, right? Because they had that foresight and they understand that. It seems like a lot of manufacturers, especially car manufacturers nowadays, are just so out of touch with what the consumers want. So for Porsche to, you know, dig their heels in and say, "Nah, we're going to invest in this direction over here," while a gamble, I feel like it's going to be a smart gamble for them. But again, just my opinion. What do I know?
So you don't think we're going to get a EV 911 in the next couple of years here?
Dude, there's probably some like German Opa rolling over in his grave right now, just hearing those words uttered in the same sentence of electrified 911. Nah, I don't think they're going to do that. And if they do, I mean, hats off to them, right? They've proved me wrong, but and then my whole previous diatribe would have been completely, you know, useless. But yeah, I don't think they'd do that. The Taycan, sure. The Macan, sure. Panamera, sure. 911, I don't think you can do that too.
I personally think they're going to hybridize a 911, but I don't think they'll go full EV. I think they're planning on doing a smaller displacement flat six with a hybrid that'll rev higher, rev like 10, 11 grand. That's kind of what I think could happen, but I don't know if they're going to go the full blown. I am assimilated with cyborgs and I have a 911.
I totally agree with you. I hope that they don't go down the full EV path, but I feel like regulations are going to force them down that path. And watching them I don't know, avoid as much as possible is going to be very interesting. Because I totally agree with
Well,
you. The heart and
yeah.
soul is the flat six. So
Yeah, the regulations piece is really interesting that you brought up. And I think the EU put a mandate in. I think it's either by 2035 or 2050.
I think it's
All
35.
new cars, yeah, so 35. All new cars sold in the EU must be, I think, fully electric.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. They might have put that into law, but I don't think, just having dealt with the EU in terms of like regulations they put into place and other things like that. I think Porsche in particular, but most of the other auto brands there could potentially they'll find loopholes for sure, and then they might even push back hard enough to where they carve out special exclusive zones or exclusive models, or there's some lobbying going on there, and the EU's interesting when it comes to how they enforce the regulations and whether or not things see the light of day.
Yep. All right. So one more question for you. So here's something that we talk about quite often. Derek and I had the discussion of like, okay, if something could happen, what would you wish happened in the car world? So we call it the I wish they would have. So if you think about all of your life experience with cars or racing or anything that has to do with the automotive world, what do you wish they would have, just in general? For example, like some of ours were like, I wish they would fit air jacks to street cars. I wish you could see the percentage brake pressure of the car in front of you through their taillights, things like that. Do you have anything?
I wish they made more than 1,500 Mark IV Volkswagen R32s.
Oh, you're going to go there. All right. You know what? I agree, because I would love a Wookiee. God, I want a Wookiee.
Oh,
so
hell
bad.
yeah. I mean, I would buy one tomorrow if they weren't, 30 grand.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Insane, but
yes,
I would love one of those.
Yes. God, I miss the Mark IV 32 so bad. A
Yeah,
buddy of
especially
mine
with
had
that.
one. And
Oh, really?
A bunch of years back, he sold it. He sold it for not quite what it'd be worth today.
Mm.
And every time I talk to him, like, hey, you missed that R32 you had?
Yeah. I'm sure he says yes.
Oh, he's dying. But God, I love that so much. I do wish they would have made more Mark IV R32s.
Yeah,
and I wish they would do like the current Golf R with the VR6 as well.
Yeah. Didn't they tried that, I think. It was like 2011, 2012. They made the Passat R36 in the Australian market that had a 3.6 liter VR6.
Yep.
So I think they tried that. And I think they tried adding like direct injection to it and everything to like snazz it up and bring it up to the current spec. And I don't think it ever went anywhere, mostly because they all cost cut and moved to the ubiquitous 2-liter 4-banger turbo. But I don't know. That would be sweet though. I love that car. I love that engine. And I wish they made more of it,
I like that. What are your thoughts there, Derek?
That's absolutely perfect. You cannot go wrong with I wish they made more of an old car that everybody loved.
Perfect. So that's all I got. You got any other questions there, Derek?
No. Thanks for coming on, Jake. This was awesome.
No worries. I appreciate you all having me and letting me really just ramble for an hour. And yeah, no, thanks. Anytime you guys want me to come back on. Hey, shameless plug. Happy to do so. No worries at all.
Happy to have you. We'll touch base again after maybe the next race, and
sure.
We'll get together and talk racing and bullshit again, and away it goes.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, gents, again. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, Jake. We'll catch you later.